Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive, the podcast that doesn't just accept the story.
We break it.
We examine the pieces.
And expose the machinery inside.
Let's dive in.
What if the search for a guru isn't about finding truth, but about surrendering it?
Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a lecture from 1996 by Ram Dass, titled The Miracle of Consciousness.
Now, Ram Dass is, without question, a huge figure in modern spirituality. So many people see him as a beloved teacher.
Absolutely, and it's important to acknowledge that his work, it really has had a profound impact on countless individuals searching for meaning.
For sure. But our mission today, well, it isn't really about praise or condemnation. We want to use this specific material as, like, a masterclass in deconstruction.
Right. We're going to look at what our analysis calls a sophisticated spiritual seduction, really expose its underlying architecture.
What's truly fascinating here, and it can be really subtle, is that the target isn't some argument you can just debate with facts and figures, right?
No, exactly. It's more like it creates an atmosphere, a structure. And it's designed, we think, to build this kind of hierarchical spiritual trap.
So we'll be dissecting its architecture, piece by piece. The idea is to help you understand how these systems can subtly guide or, well, maybe misguide you.
Usually you'd expect a lecture to lay out a clear, maybe linear argument, perhaps with some evidence to back it up.
Yeah, but our analysis highlights that this isn't really an argument in that sense. It's much more like an immersive experience.
Yeah.
An atmosphere.
It often uses language that sounds really humble, with lots of self-inquiry. And that can be incredibly disarming.
But our deep dive reveals it actually constructs quite an elaborate, almost invisible hierarchical spiritual trap. So for you listening, what are maybe the first signs, those initial cracks in what seems like a harmonious facade?
Well, right from the start, the narrative isn't really built on things you can verify empirically, shared objective data.
Right. It leans really heavily on subjective experiences you just can't check.
Exactly. We're talking about psychedelic revelations, for instance, or these very personal stories about a figure he calls Maharaji.
So anecdote basically replaces evidence, the kind of evidence we'd normally rely on to build a solid conclusion.
Precisely. And then there's this core claim that reality isn't absolutely real, it's relatively real. Essentially, it's all a construct of our minds.
Which immediately creates this huge logical paradox, doesn't it?
It does, because if all reality is relative and just a construct, then this very lecture itself must also be just a relative construct.
Meaning any truths it claims to hold are just contingent, maybe even meaningless.
Logically, yes. His entire authority, you see, it rests on this paradox that he conveniently doesn't apply to his own teachings.
And he tends to reduce sort of all of Western thought down to scientific materialism. That's the label he uses.
Yeah, without offering any really robust epistemology in return. And by epistemology, we just mean a solid, verifiable way of knowing how we know things.
Instead, it all comes down to personal revelation. His experiences.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. And maybe a little uncomfortable to look at.
Beyond those logical issues you just pointed out.
Right. Our sources show this really powerful triad of emotional and narrative manipulation going on. It's important to understand why these teachings feel so compelling for people. They often give you this initial sense of connection, maybe deeper meaning.
Definitely. But let's look at how they actually function. So first, there's flattery. He literally tells you, you already know this.
Which is incredibly effective, right? It just shuts down critical thinking immediately.
Yeah, because if you agree with him, you're instantly validated, you're wise, you're awakened, you get it.
But if you doubt, if you question it, then suddenly you're the one failing to recognize your own inner truth. It makes agreement feel like wisdom.
Okay, then number two, the shared journey tactic. You hear phrases like, we're all in this together.
And that skillfully creates an in-group, doesn't it? This little circle of awakened souls on the path.
And implicitly, it sets them against the unawakened egos out there in the world.
It plays right into tribalism, fosters that powerful sense of belonging, solidarity, but it also draws a line, those who get it versus those who don't.
And the third part of the triad, the Guru-Playmate. His stories about Maharaji.
These aren't really presented as evidence, are they? It's more like mythological packaging.
Exactly. They're not meant for analysis. They're designed to inspire awe, to completely bypass your intellect.
And they appeal directly to that deep-seated desire many of us have for, well, magical thinking. Or maybe a wise parent figure who just have all the answers. It's incredibly compelling storytelling.
So if we connect all these dots, Look at the bigger picture. You have to ask, who actually benefits from this whole structure?
And the answer seems to be the spiritual hierarchy it implicitly creates.
The speaker might position himself as just a humble guide, pointing the way.
But the whole setup requires a guide, doesn't it? He claims he transcended his own guru, but now he becomes the essential link for others, the intermediary to connect with that guru's spirit or teachings.
It creates this dependency loop. It stabilizes his authority and, by extension, the authority of the whole tradition he represents.
The power play is so subtle. It shifts from what sounds like think for yourself to something more like think for yourself, and eventually you'll realize I'm right.
And the central paradox, it's glaring when you see it. Preaching non-duality, the illusion of the separate self.
While reinforcing the ultimate duality, guru and disciple, that playmate idea, it ends up looking like spiritual outsourcing, not freedom.
Our analysis suggests the true alternative, maybe the liberating one, is actually, well, it's terrifying, but also exhilarating.
Which is?
The realization that you might just be alone in the universe with your own consciousness. No guides, no playmates, just your own ruthless, honest inquiry.
What really stands out here when you look closely is how many of these ideas, these sort of New Age concepts, they aren't really new at all.
Not at all. They're patterns. Echoes of control mechanisms and ideas we've seen throughout history, right?
Exactly. Our sources do a fantastic job cross-referencing these concepts with historical examples and philosophical pushback. It shows how these things pop up again and again, just maybe in different clothes.
Okay, let's take one. The idea that the guru is a necessary mirror or playmate for awakening.
Right. Our research connects this to the function of, say, the Catholic papacy in its historical form, positioning the priesthood as that essential go-between. You needed them to access God.
Created a kind of spiritual monopoly, yeah. Access was mediated, controlled.
Which is completely different from something like Zen Buddhism, which really insists on independent, sudden enlightenment, a direct experience, no middleman.
They even have that saying, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him.
Which sounds harsh, but it means you have to destroy any external dependency, any image, any teacher. It's about your direct path.
And philosophically, someone like Nietzsche might look at this guru dynamic
And see a subtle will to power, right, disguised as something spiritual or humble. By defining the path, the guru becomes the most powerful figure controlling the journey.
Okay, what about the next one? That idea that aging and suffering are illusions of the ego. The soul is untouched. That feels really common.
Oh, it is. And it's powerful. It echoes how, historically, divine right monarchs would tell peasants their suffering was just part of God's plan.
Something to be endured for a reward later. Keep quiet now.
Exactly. It pacified dissent. Questioning your suffering meant questioning God's will. Incredibly effective control.
But then you have Stoicism as a counterpoint.
Right. Stoicism doesn't deny reality or spiritualize suffering away. It demands courageous, rational engagement with things as they are.
It asks, okay, this is tough. What virtue can I practice here? How can I respond with wisdom? Not just escaping into metaphysics.
And you can't ignore Karl Marx's critique here, either religion as the opiate of the masses.
In this context, that kind of spiritual bypassing just acts like a sedative, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It prevents people from taking action or even just recognizing real material suffering that needs addressing.
And then the big one, often the foundation for so much of this. All reality is relative, Maya. Only consciousness is absolute. Sounds deep, but our sources flag it.
Deeply problematic in how it's often applied, yeah. It functions a bit like what some call postmodern sophistry. Not the ancient Greeks, but the modern idea.
Where you deconstruct all truth claims, asserting objective truth is impossible.
Exactly, leaving only personal narratives and ultimately the power to dictate which narrative wins.
Which runs completely counter to things like Aristotelian logic or empirical science.
Both of which operate on the premise that there is a shared objective reality we can observe, test, and understand through reason and evidence.
And the internal contradiction just kills it, really.
How so?
Well, if all reality is relative, then the claim that all reality is relative is also just a relative claim, right?
Ah, right. It places a speaker's own system beyond any external critique. It's a closed loop that only benefits the person making the claim.
Okay, so now let's get really granular. We've peeled back these layers, and our sources identify these very specific, almost tactical moves, an armory of deceptions, we're calling it.
These aren't just abstract ideas anymore. They're specific traps, subtly designed to disarm your critical mind. Let's dig into some of the big ones you might run into.
First, the flattery trap. Classic emotional manipulation. False empowerment.
Our cross-cultural research sees this as like the old "you are a king's lost child" fairy tale, just repackaged for spiritual seekers today.
By telling you you already know, it disarms your intellect before you can even start thinking critically. Disagreement becomes self-betrayal.
You accept it, and bam, you've just handed over the keys to your own critical mind.
Next, the bait and switch of relative reality. It's a logical fallacy, special pleading, like you said earlier.
It's basically the emperor's new clothes, isn't it? Only the wise, those who agree, can see the truth.
He applies relativity to every system, except his own. Physics is relative, but his psychedelic insights, those are absolute glimpses. It's intellectual sleight of hand.
Then the Guru-Playmate mythos. This is narrative manipulation. Creates a kind of cultic idealization.
Our sources compare this to the trickster god archetype like Loki or Coyote, making unpredictable, maybe even harmful behavior seem like deep teaching.
It trains you, the disciple, to accept absurdity, maybe even mind games or emotional abuse, as if it's grace. It destroys your ability to set healthy boundaries.
Moving to the spiritual bypassing of suffering, this, our analysis, flags as a serious ethical failure, denialism.
Our sources see it as a modern version of theodicy, trying to justify suffering if there's a good God, but now without the God, just spiritualizing the suffering itself away.
To look at real pain, like a starving child, and call it perfect or an illusion, that's not wisdom.
No, it's a profound moral failure. It's the ultimate privilege, isn't it? To just spiritualize away suffering you don't have to face yourself.
And the we're all one pacifier, a metaphysical claim used to shut down legitimate issues.
It reminds me of the noble lie in Plato's Republic. A story told for social cohesion, even if not true for the good of the state.
Here it dissolves conflict. Why fight the system? We're all one anyway.
It's maybe one of the most insidious weapons against real liberation, personal or social. It just deflates the need for action.
Let's talk about the demonization of the ego. That's a classic straw man argument, right?
Definitely. Used by systems that demand you surrender yourself completely. Our sources say it's like original sin again, just without the crucifixion part.
But the ego isn't the enemy. It's how we navigate the world.
Exactly. The goal shouldn't be to kill it, but to understand it, integrate it, make it a servant of your conscious self, not the master running wild.
And the commercialization of wisdom. This one seems almost blatant sometimes.
Yeah, it's hypocrisy often. Suppressed evidence of financial gain. Our sources compare it directly to selling indulgences back in the day.
Just repackaged now as seminar tickets, book deals, retreats.
The guru we're looking at here even jokes about the great market of aging boomers seeking meaning. That feels like the truth slipping out.
The spiritual journey gets packaged and sold, creates consumers, not explorers.
What about the false equivalence of action? That feels related.
It is. It presents this false choice, often to keep people passive. It's like modern quietism. That old idea of inner stillness over engaging with the world.
Repackaged for today, it says either change the world or change yourself. Pick one.
But a truly integrated person does both, right? This just encourages accepting injustice under the guise of working on yourself.
And the reincarnation safety net. Seems liberating, but maybe it's fear-based control.
Our sources compare it to Pascal's wager, better believe just in case. Here, it's for the Eastern market.
It takes away the urgency of now, doesn't it? If you mess up this life, there's always the next one.
It could be a total tranquilizer for the spirit. Delays facing present challenges.
Finally, the rejection of linear thought. Pure anti-intellectualism.
A strategy for those who can't win a logical argument, basically. Our analysis sees it as that postmodern dismissal of meta-narratives, just with a psychedelic twist.
But linear thought built the modern world. Science, technology.
Right. To dismiss it as lesser is to dismiss the very tools you need to analyze this stuff critically. It's a strategic retreat to where logic can't touch you.
So, okay. What does this all boil down to for you, the listener? Our deep dive suggests the ultimate deception here.
Is the idea that you are fundamentally incomplete, that you lack something vital.
And therefore, you need an external agent, a guru, a teaching, a drug, a philosophy to make you whole.
The entire structure, when you really break it down, is built on first manufacturing that sense of lack inside you.
And then positioning itself as the one and only solution. Indispensable.
It is, to put it bluntly, a spiritual racket. It profits from your natural human desire for meaning.
Ram Dass, for all his warmth, his wit, the genuine comfort he clearly offered so many people.
Through this kind of rigorous analysis, he becomes well, emergent.
Selling a beautiful cage, maybe. Intricate, comforting. The bars are made of lovely ideas. Non-duality, soul, grace, karma.
But the lock. The lock is the belief that you cannot trust yourself to find your own way, that
Yeah.
you need that guide.
Your doubt is not a weakness. It's valid. Your intellect. It's not the enemy of your spirit. It's maybe its first and most loyal guardian.
We urge you, reject the middleman. The miracle of consciousness isn't hidden in the words of some 1996 lecture.
It's happening right now. In the fierce, maybe uncomfortable, but magnificent act of you questioning everything they ever told you.
This deep dive, it's a challenge to you. Burn that mental prison to the ground.
Use the very tools of doubt and critical thinking they tried to co-opt. Use them to dismantle their own kingdom.
Your mind. That's the one thing they can never truly own.
Unless you willingly give it to them, stop begging for chains. Think for yourself.
And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you.
What is the one spiritual or personal idea you've held on to that you're finally ready to put on the chopping block?
Let us know in the comments. Question the narrative.
Deconstruct the dogma.
See the system.
We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical.